You feel it, don't you? Something is off. Something you can't name. It's not pain, not fear, not sadness. It's something quieter, something stickier. Like a fog you walk through every day, barely noticing how it steals your clarity, your time, your will. It's not an enemy. It doesn't scream or attack. It whispers gently, sweetly. It tells you to rest, that tomorrow is better, that you've still got time. And the worst part, you believe it. It's a parasite, a shadow hiding behind your every "I'll do it later," behind every "I'm just not ready yet." And it's winning. It's stealing your minutes, your days, your future, but it makes you think it's your fault, that you're just lazy, that you'll never be consistent, never disciplined, never one of those people who just gets things done. But that's a lie. That's the biggest trap your brain has ever set for you. And you walked right into it. Let me say this clearly. It's not your fault. Your brain has been trained to protect you from discomfort, to avoid the unfamiliar, to preserve energy. And slowly, without noticing, you've surrendered. You've allowed a silent thief to take over. But there's good news. You can break this, you can fight back, you can reclaim every moment that has been stolen. And it doesn't require superhuman strengths. It starts small. Because right now, just by watching this, just by reading these words, something in you is already awake. Something knows there's more inside you, that you're meant for more than just surviving day after day. So here's the deal. This isn't just another motivational video. This is a declaration of war against the force that's been holding you back. Are you ready to take it seriously? Then pause for 1 second and make your first small move. Leave a comment saying, "I start now," and subscribe so you never lose this fire. Don't be a spectator of your own potential. Let's begin. You see, your brain doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about your dream job, your six-pack abs, your best-selling book, or the business you've always wanted to launch. Your brain has one mission, and survival means staying safe, staying comfortable, and above all, avoiding unnecessary energy expenditure. So every time you say, "I want to change," your brain sounds the alarm. It says, danger. Not because change is bad, but because change is unfamiliar. And to your primitive brain, unfamiliar equals threat. That's why the moment you try to start something new, resistance kicks in. You feel tired, you feel distracted. You tell yourself, "I'll do it tomorrow." That's not you failing. That's biology. But here is where most people lose the game. They try to overpower this resistance with massive willpower. They decide to go all in, cold turkey. They make a huge plan. I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I'm going to work out for 2 hours. I'm going to meditate, journal, read, write, build, launch, and transform starting now. But your brain sees that and goes, "Nope, that's too much." And you crash again, you fail again, not because you're weak, but because you're trying to lift a mountain instead of starting with a pen. Here's the truth. Massive change starts with microscopic steps. The key is to make it so small, so ridiculously easy, that your brain doesn't even notice. Don't aim to read a whole book. Read 1 sentence. Don't aim to run 5 miles. Put your shoes on. Don't aim to launch a business. Just write the idea down. Because once you start, momentum takes over. But that first step has to be laughably small. That's how you hack your brain's defense system. That's how you sneak past resistance. Not with brute force, with strategy. Here's what no one tells you. The hardest part is never the work itself. The hardest part is starting. That's why the tiniest action matters. Because when you start a event with something so small it feels stupid, you break the spell. You interrupt the loop. And suddenly, your brain doesn't feel threatened. It just moves. This is why people who seem disciplined aren't superhuman. They've just figured out how to make action easier than inaction. They don't think about motivation. They don't wait for inspiration. They've built systems, routines, so simple, so automated, that action becomes the default. You need to do the same. Don't let every day be a debate in your head. Should I go to the gym today? Should I work on that idea now or later? Should I read or scroll for another hour? Every one of those questions drains your mental battery. Every one opens a door to excuses. And when your brain gets tired, it always picks the easy path. So kill the decision. Make the habit automatic. If you want to work out, lay out your clothes the night before. Put your shoes by your bed. Make it so obvious, so frictionless, that not doing it would feel unnatural. If you want to read more, place the book on your pillow. Download the audio book in advance. Set a daily reminder that says, read 1 page. Just 1. The easier it is to start, the harder it becomes to stop. And here's the truth most people ignore. Routines beat willpower every time. You don't need to feel like it. You need to build a system that doesn't ask for permission, because feelings are unpredictable. But systems are reliable. So if this is connecting with you, pause for a moment. Leave a comment saying no more waiting and hit that subscribe button. This message is just getting started, and you don't want to lose the momentum you're building right now. Let's talk about momentum, because once you've made the habit simple and automatic, the next challenge appears. Staying consistent. This is where most people fall off. They start strong, they take a few steps, and then they vanish. Back into old patterns, back into silence. Not because they're lazy, but because they didn't build a system that supports them on the hard days. You see, even when everything is set up perfectly even, when you've minimized decisions and built easy routines, there will be days when nothing works. Days when your energy crashes, when your brain fogs, when even brushing your teeth feels like a victory. What do you do then? This is where the third rule comes in. The rule that kills inaction at its root. It's called the 2-minute rule. When you feel resistance, when the thought of doing anything feels like climbing Everest, commit to just 2 minutes. That's it. 2 minutes of writing, 2 minutes of exercise, 2 minutes of studying, 2 minutes of doing the thing you're avoiding. Why 2 minutes? Because your brain doesn't see it as a threat. It's too small to trigger resistance. You can't say, I don't have time, because 2 minutes is nothing. You can't say, I'm too tired, because 2 minutes won't drain you. You can't say, I'm not motivated, because you don't need motivation for 2 minutes. But once you begin, something shifts. You enter a state of motion, and motion begets more motion. Suddenly, 2 minutes becomes 10. 10 becomes 30, and before you know it, you've done far more than you promised yourself. But even if you truly stop at 2 minutes, you still win, because you didn't break the chain. You kept the identity alive. The identity of someone who shows up, someone who moves, someone who doesn't surrender to laziness. And that, over time, is everything. Think about the last time you said, I just don't feel like it. It felt real, didn't it? Heavy like a fog pressing down on your chest. You told yourself, I'll wait until I feel ready. But readiness never came. And hours, maybe days, slipped by while you waited for a feeling that was never meant to come. Here's a truth you need to tattoo onto your mind. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. You don't move because you're motivated. You're motivated because you move. Your emotions will catch up later, but you can't rely on them to start. That's why the 2-minute rule works so well. It ignores emotion. It starts with identity. Because the moment you take even a small action, you're sending a message to yourself. This is who I am. An identity. That's where the real change lives. It's not about achieving goals. Goals are temporary. Identity is permanent. Anyone can run for a week. Anyone can read a few pages. But the person who runs every day, even for 5 minutes, starts becoming a runner. The person who writes a single sentence each morning starts becoming a writer. And that's where transformation happens. Not in the outcome, in the repetition, in the identity shift. You're not trying to build a new life by force. You're becoming someone who naturally lives that life. And how does that start? With something so tiny it almost feels silly. So tiny your lazy brain can't object. So tiny your self-doubt doesn't even notice. So tiny, it's unstoppable. One step, one sentence, one rep, one tiny act of rebellion against the inertia that's been holding you hostage. This is the power of the invisible, the power of a new identity forming one small move at a time. Now let's take this further, because even when you understand the psychology, even when you take small steps and build tiny routines, one threat still remains. Your environment. Most people ignore it. They try to change their lives while staying in the same space that built their old identity. Same distractions, same patterns, same clutter. And they wonder why they keep falling back. But here's the thing. Your environment is either working for you or against you. If your phone is always next to you, buzzing and lighting up, you're not lazy or distracted. If your workspace is chaotic, you're not unproductive, you're over. If your bed is your office, your kitchen, your reading nook, you're everything. Your brain is confused. It doesn't know when to switch on and when to rest. So design your environment to make success automatic. Want to read more? Place a book on your pillow. Want to move more? Keep your shoes by the door. Want to focus deeply? Use apps to block distractions. Turn your phone off. Put it in another room. Make doing the right thing easier than doing the wrong thing. Because here's the brutal truth. Willpower fades. Systems stay. And your environment is the most powerful system you can control. Make your surroundings a reflection of your goals, not your fears. Clean your space. Simplify it. Make the next action so obvious it's impossible to ignore. Don't rely on discipline. Build a world that rewards your future self. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer obstacles. So far, you've learned how to trick your brain, how to build momentum, how to simplify habits, and how to shape your environment. But now we face the most dangerous enemy of all. Your inner voice, the voice that says, you've failed too many times, the one that whispers, who are you kidding? You always quit, the one that says, you'll never be like them. That voice isn't truth. It's a loop, a broken recording stuck on repeat, forged in years of self-doubt, failure, fear, and stories that never belonged to you in the first place. And you've believed it for too long. But guess what? Every time you take a small action, every time you move when your mind tells you to freeze, you rewriting the script, you're proving that voice wrong. Because here's what it fears the most. Progress, not perfection. Not massive change. Just progress. A single step forward weakens its grip. A tiny victory rewires your belief system. You don't need to silence the voice. You just need to act in spite of it. And if that voice is screaming right now, that's a good sign. It means you're getting close. It means you're doing something that threatens the part of you that wants to stay safe, small, and invisible. So don't stop. This is your moment. The moment you decide that self-doubt doesn't get the final word, that the version of you buried under excuses is ready to rise. If this hits home, drop a comment that says, "I refuse to quit," and smash that subscribe button so you don't lose this fire tomorrow. We're building something here, and you're part of it now. Let's keep going. You're doing better than you think. Now let's flip the perspective. Imagine for a moment, what if your life didn't change in a single explosion of success, but in quiet, invisible shifts? A sentence written, a page read, a 2-minute workout, a single choice to say no to distraction and yes to growth. What if greatness wasn't dramatic? What if it was subtle? What if the people who rise aren't the loudest or the most gifted, but the ones who simply keep showing up? Think about that. Most people wait for a miracle. They wait for motivation to strike like lightning. They wait for some magical version of themselves to appear one day full of energy, confidence, and strength. But that person doesn't exist. The truth, that future version of you is being built right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, now. With every small choice, every step forward, every moment you decide to act instead of delay. Because this is what real transformation looks like. Boring, repetitive, invisible to others. But inside, it's revolution. And one day they'll look at you and say, "Wow, you've changed." But they won't see the hours, the resistance, the moments when you wanted to give up and didn't, the battles you fought in silence, the 1,000 tiny victories no one clapped for. But you'll know, you'll remember. Because real success isn't loud. It's consistent. It's forged in quiet moments when no one's watching. And that's what you're building if you don't give up, keep going. The life you want is already in motion. Every step counts. Even this one. Let's get brutally honest for a second. You've wasted time. You've delayed what matters. You've said tomorrow more times than you can count. And deep down, it hurts. It gnaws at you. Because you know you're capable of more. You've had glimpses of it, moments of clarity where you saw yourself crushing your goals, building your dream, living with purpose. But those moments faded. And every time they did, a little more of your self-trust disappeared with them. But guess what? That version of you, the powerful one, the disciplined one, the unstoppable one, isn't gone. It's not lost. It's just buried under layers of inaction and fear. And every small move you make digs them out. You don't need to become someone new. You need to return to who you were before doubt took over. The kid who dreamed boldly. The teen who believed they were meant for more. The version of you who didn't hesitate to try, to act, to risk. They're still in there. And every time you take action, no matter how small, you pull that person closer to the surface. You remind yourself, I am not a quitter. I am not a slave to comfort. I am not the excuses I've repeated in my head. So stop punishing yourself for the past. Stop replaying failures like they define you. They don't. What defines you is this: that you're still here, still fighting, still trying. That when everything says you should stop, you choose to take one more step. And that choice, that's what changes everything. Let's talk about failure. Not the dramatic kind. Not the public crashes or the viral meltdowns. No. Let's talk about the quiet kind, the kind that lives in your bedroom, in your late nights, in your mornings spent staring at the ceiling. The failure of staying still. Because that's the most dangerous kind. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It tells you, it's not that bad. It says, you're doing okay. It convinces you that surviving is enough. That staying stuck is safer than risking growth. But here's the harsh truth. Comfort zones kill dreams. They don't do it instantly. They do it slowly. One ignored goal at a time. One skipped action. One more day of waiting. And before you know it, you've become a spectator in your own life, watching others build, move, evolve, while you hesitate, plan, and postpone. But let's flip the script. What if you decided to fail forward? What if you embraced the mess, the awkward first steps, the rough drafts, the clumsy reps? What if, instead of fearing failure, you welcomed it as proof that you're in motion? Because progress is never clean. It's gritty, awkward, uncomfortable, but it's also real. And every failure, every misstep is a sign that you're no longer standing still, that you've chosen courage over comfort, movement over fear. So if you've been waiting for perfect conditions, stop. They don't exist. If you've been waiting for the right mindset, the right day, you create the right moment by acting in spite of doubt. You don't need perfection. You need motion. And the rest, it'll follow. Let's talk identity, because everything you do, every habit you build, every action you take, it's shaping who you are becoming. But here's the twist. You're not chasing a result. You're reinforcing a belief. Each time you show up, even when it's hard, you're recasting a vote for the person you want to be. You're saying, this is who I am now, not someday, not in theory, now. And that's what builds unshakable confidence. Confidence doesn't come from talking about your goals. It doesn't come from vision boards or future plans. It comes from keeping promises to yourself, small ones, quiet ones no one sees but you. Because when you do the work no one applauds, your identity grows in silence. When you act on the days you least feel like it, you're building resilience. When you take a step forward with no guarantee of success, you're building courage. And courage compounds. One choice becomes a habit becomes a mindset becomes a lifestyle becomes you. That's how change happens, not in one huge leap, but in thousands of micro decisions that reinforce who you are. So don't worry if your progress looks invisible. Don't stress if no one notices yet. You're not building for applause. You're building for truth. And the truth is this: you are not your past. You are not your doubts. You are what you repeatedly choose to do. And today, you chose action. That matters more than you think.
Let's pause for a moment and be honest. You've heard a lot so far. Ideas, strategies, hard truths. Maybe you're feeling fired up. Maybe you're nervous. Maybe you're unsure. But here's what matters most. You're still here. And that's not nothing. That means something deep inside you is awake. Tired of the cycle. Tired of your own excuses. Tired of feeling like potential without progress. The world is filled with people who never finish what they start. Who live on repeat. Who drown in inspiration but never build action. But you're not one of them, not anymore. Because now you know the truth. You don't need a miracle. You don't need a perfect plan. You need movement. You need tiny, consistent action that builds over time until you've created something unstoppable. This isn't about motivation. It's about identity. And the more you act, the more you reinforce who you are. So let me ask you again, clearly this time. Are you ready to stop observing your own life from the sidelines? Are you ready to stop being the almost, the maybe, the could've? Then make this the moment everything changes. Drop a comment that says, "I take control now," and hit subscribe if you're really serious about this path. Because this isn't the end. It's the start of your new standard. You don't rise by dreaming. You rise by deciding. And you just did. Now, we keep going. Let's imagine something. Imagine waking up 1 year from now. Same city, same room, same phone, but something's different. You look in the mirror and you don't see hesitation. You see clarity. You see strength. You feel proud of what you've built, not ashamed of what you've delayed. You move with direction, not distraction. And it's not because luck struck. It's not because you found some secret hack. It's because you started, and you didn't stop. You kept showing up when it was boring. You kept acting when no one clapped. You kept choosing progress when comfort begged you to quit. And piece by piece, your life changed. Now flip the vision. Same room, same you, but nothing changed. You're still promising yourself next Monday. Still talking about ideas instead of executing them. Still watching others live the life you know you're capable of. And wondering why it's not happening for you. That's the cost of delay. Not just lost time, but lost self-respect. Because every day you hesitate, you reinforce the identity of the one who waits. The one who dreams, but doesn't do. But you're not that version anymore. You're here. You're aware. You've seen what's possible. And, more importantly, you've felt it. And once you've felt that fire, you can't pretend you don't know it's there. So decide what story you want to tell 1 year from now. The one where you stayed stuck. Or the one where everything started changing because you refused to wait any longer. That choice is still yours.
So here we are, the end of the video. But the beginning of something bigger. Not just a new day, or a new mindset, a new standard. You've been told your whole life that you need to be motivated, that you need to want it bad enough, that success is for the chosen few. But none of that is true. The truth is simpler and scarier. You only need to act, not perfectly, not dramatically, just consistently. You only need to make one small move, every single day, and protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. You've already learned how to break resistance with microactions, to remove decision fatigue with smart routines, to build systems instead of chasing feelings, to fail forward, to build identity through repetition. So now the question isn't how, it's when, and deep down you already know the answer. Because after all of this, if you still choose to wait, to hesitate, to scroll away and pretend like this didn't hit you where it matters most, then nothing will change. Not because you're incapable, but because you've decided to stay the same. But if you take even the smallest step, you shift the course of everything. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You are capable. You are ready. You are in control. This is not motivation. This is the truth, and now you have no excuse left. So close this video and take action. Tiny, immediate, relentless. Because that's how everything changes.